I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
So moved with that.
Okay, the motion been made by Gall. Is there a second that motion?
Second.
Second by Kaufman. Roll call. Gall.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Gerber, aye. Minutes. Any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented?
Move the minutes.
Okay, motion been made by Kaufman. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Smith. Roll call. Kaufman.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Gall.
Aye.
Gerber, aye. Payroll. Any questions on the payroll?
No.
May I have approval of?
So moved.
Okay, motion been made by Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gall. Roll call. Smith.
Aye.
Gall.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Gerber, aye. Stanwood Drainage District, I don't need to run that for anything, do we, today? We can do the minutes at the next one. Secondary road facility. Rob's taking care of that. Outreach meetings by the supervisors. Dawn and I are going over to West Branch the 17th at 7 o'clock. So courthouse phone system. Carrie's taking care of that. Plumbing issues. I don't think they've started tearing up the floor. They hadn't as of yesterday. So office space facilities planning. We'll hear more of that today. Option sales tax, service tax, and organizational studies. That we'll have to, after the budgets are all done, we'll have to do something about that and figure out when we're going to do that. Budget funding reviews and decisions. And I think there's some, we got some people coming in, so we'll put that down towards the end of the list. Action on request recorder for an additional deputy appointment. I think we can do that when we do the budget reviews and decisions. Action on appointment to real estate category of eminent domain commission.
Do we have somebody that resigned from that?
Did Becky?
I called her to submit a letter. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay,
she
well,
said she would, or I told her she could email it.
You know, we got to find a real estate person to serve on that. Becky Donahoe does not have a license anymore, so be thinking about it. She's going to submit a letter on it. Okay, action on the actuarial services agreement between Silverstone Group Incorporated and Cedar County concerning actuarial services for employee benefit plans. Does Carrie want?
Somewhere around.
Huh?
It's going around.
It's probably, yeah.
This here.
Oh, you.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. No, I guess everybody has a copy.
Everybody has a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave it
never
one.
mind, yeah.
And Jeff said he's got his signature on here. It was okay with him.
Carrie
Carrie had taken it to the county attorney. So, does anybody have any questions on it?
Do you need a motion to accept it?
Huh?
Do you need any motion to accept that?
Yeah, we need a motion to accept it.
I move we accept it.
Okay, the motion been made by Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kaufman. Any more discussion? Roll call. Smith.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Gall.
Aye.
And Gerber, aye. You need a copy of this, or she got?
That's fine, you can sign that one, I think.
I have to sign it, or? Carrie sign that.
I believe you do.
Julie.
Okay, very shortly.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it's the board.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to give a quick update on the governing board meeting that Wayne and I attended yesterday and let you know some of the things we discussed. One of the first areas that we got to in the normal business of the meeting was the financial reports, and I wanted to point out, and I'll get you all of these. I didn't have time to make copies this morning yet, but all of our counties have paid in that excess fund balance amount, and so our region pot is a little over $2.7 million that we have at the region level. If counties do get in trouble with paying for their budgeted items, then we can ask the governing board to bring some of that money back to the county to make sure we're paying our bills and those kind of things. So that's also to go towards our new services that we're developing, especially the crisis services. So wanted to let you know that most of it, that we had all paid that in. So Cedar County sent $568,000 their way, so that was our portion of that.
How much?
$568,000.
How is it awarded back appropriately so that you know that your county is getting their fair share?
I think it's just what we need to cover our expenses. And so we'll petition what we need to get through that fiscal year to cover everything, and if that's ongoing, then we keep asking and we try to support the counties. So I think
but what happens if some counties don't budget accordingly and then they get in a pinch and need more out of it than what they put in? Right, and I think those are decisions that the governing board's going to have to make. I know John brought that up at one time. How are you going to equally keep track of your dollars that you contribute and get back that amount? I'm not sure that you can, just because of how it's pooled at the regional level. But I think we have to keep in mind that all of us at the regional level are a group now. We're not an individual county, and we're trying to, that money's used to support everybody at that level to keep everybody able to run the region and make that move. So I think that's where we get it gets sticky, but I know we've had that discussion, so, and I think that'll be some tough decisions for the governing board, down the road. I do know that
You're the assistant.
I think
I know. That's why I'm like, oh, this doesn't sound
in
good.
fiscal year 17, which we'll be budgeting for that next year, that's where we're going to be running into some hardships because all the state money is not going to be coming out like it has been. There's nothing appropriated. We talked yesterday that 4728, that's a sunset. That's going to end, and we need to know how to budget for that. That per capita where everybody was equal, that ends, and our fund balances potentially could go back to what they were originally before this all started. And how does that work? Scott County, they'll be down to, I think, $3 million. Now they get 4 or 5 million, something like that.
And what's that particular contract called? What's that program called?
That was the 4728 per capita that everybody was equal for the levied amount. That would take Cedar back up to $891,000. Last year we dropped to $870,000 because that was the 4728, and then this year we had to send back that Medicaid offset money, and so now we're down to $847,000. So it'll be, I don't know how they're going to fix it. We discussed a little bit where they may do a cap amount, and we have the ability to raise the levies or whatever is needed in each county to decide what you need to get through your budget year and pay for everything. Lots of ideas are being tossed around. We don't know yet what they're going to come up with, but they are aware that this is an issue and we need to know how to plan for it. So,
Okay, thank you.
Legislative update. I think that was a big piece of it, is the money part of it and how they're going to handle funding, keeping the regions moving forward. And a lot of us do have some pretty high fund balances right now, several $1 million. Problem is we're all starting to pay for the crisis services, and those are very costly. They're 24-hour services that we're estimating. I think we talked yesterday, I think Polk County, they did their program, which we're going to go out and tour and mirror our program, that living room setting that I've kind of discussed with you, where a person can go and have services wrapped around them. They're not necessarily in a hospital, committal, police type situation. Just startup costs for Polk County was $1.5 million. We have roughly $2 million in our little pot that we're putting towards, that we budgeted for crisis services. So we would be able to maybe do startup and get people up and running, but we're going to need the funding to keep those services going, and that's part of that core services that they wanted us to have in place and that are new to the region. So.
Because we're going to have operating costs.
Right, and then we'll have the operating costs, and we do have a building that we're looking at, and there'd be some remodeling and all those kind of things. And then we would like to have a county social worker possibly go to these court hearings and be in the hospitals when people are in, to divert away from those committal and hospitalization costs and use these other type of services and beds that are a little less intrusive to their lives and things like that. But that's going to cost some money, so. anyway, so we're working on that. Lori attended the Lifelong Links, it's the AAAs as we've known them in the past, advisory meeting. They're just, if you remember, we're forming this partnership, and we signed that agreement to work as a partnership. They're now doing 18 year and older for their Lifelong Links call-in center, which starts in Waterloo. You call the number, the 1-800 number. It goes down to Burlington, where 2 people do intake, and then they shuffle it out to the community that you're in, which I don't know, we just feel like there's a lot of duplication of service, where we're already doing a lot of these linking in our own community, and they're trying to do a lot of that too. They're not aware of our mental health services, and it's getting tricky because at the very advisory board that Lori attended, a lady started crying and afterward found out had lots of issues, and they didn't know how to assist her, but Lori was able to the next day get her hooked up with services. She felt a lot better. We're just concerned that they're not trained to take this role on, to be handling a call center with persons with mental health issues calling in and handling that. I know they're very used to their own program, but there's just not been a lot of training there, so we'll see how that goes. And we want to be a voice at the table, and that's why we're on their advisory board at this point in time. So
then the region's got 3 different companies they're working with too, aren't they? Like we got.
Yeah, we have Heritage, Milestones, and then
what's the other one? There's 3 of them just in our region, so it's
there's 3 different agencies that are trying to work together and then pull our region into it too. So I don't know. There's no funding for them as well from the state, and I know they have approached a couple counties in our region for funding, and they've said no. So it's unmandated fund, so I don't know how this is going to work, but we will keep participating and see what the partnership works out to be. Election of officers, Wayne was super nice and didn't step up to be the vice chair, so that means I get another year of not having to do the CEO role. But Cass Kelly from Muscatine County will be that person starting next January, and then that'll mean that Mike Johansson then will be the CEO for the region. So anyway,
that's a good choice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very good choice. Yeah. He'll do an excellent job. So yeah.
And this year we got Jack Willie and
Lynn Boats, and they both do an excellent job too. So it's a good group of people. So waiting list, we asked for a clarification when the state implemented that waiting list for all of the waiver services for the population groups, that does the region pay for those services while they're on that waiting list? And they did send us back a letter that they would expect us to pay, but we're not required to. So what we've decided is we can't let these people just go with nothing while they're waiting for these services, and so we're gonna meet as a management team and put together like a package type, we're calling it that, array of services that we will all uniformly approve for the different needs that the people may have until we know when the waiting list is going to end or how they're going to handle that. So we're going to be meeting soon to set up what those services are, how many units, what do we have a limit of costs that we want to assess per person. We do need to come up with an assessment tool to even determine what those needs are. Do we use what the state's using, so when they are off the late waiting list, then it's consistent and the person needs are the same as they were with the region as they are with that? I don't know. There's lots of questions. So
I said you have to have an assessment for the assessment.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I think those were the main points of the meeting. We spent a lot of time discussing kind of the waiting list and the money situation for keeping the regions going. So Wayne, was there anything else?
Basically, Lynn brought it up that the third year, we'll be way down on our reserves if the state doesn't come through with any money, 'cause
I
I think
do
it's
have.
down to, well, we start out, next year we'll have like, what, a little over 3 million, and it goes down to 1.
I think
They're looking at 211.
1.7
by the end of June 30th, 17, we're down to 1.7 million. We're projecting our fund balance at the end of this year to be 10 million, just a little over 10.4
So
million.
it goes down, down,
So
down.
it
Stays.
continues to go down, and like I said, there's nothing coming in. So I hate to say it, but we're kind of getting back to where we were when we started this whole thing, where Cedar County, we would have been had a negative fund balance, which you can't have, and we were going to have to figure out how to put people on waiting lists, cut services, those kind of things. And then the region came along and the state funded us the money, and now we're back to seeing that situation happening again. So
We had that conversation about 4 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we're still having it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think they realized that when they did this Medicaid offset, how much that equalization was going to change. I don't think they took that into account. Where everybody was supposed to be at the 47.28. Well, our average for our region right now is $40.42. So we've already dropped, and I think by the time, let's see, next year it's $43.81, and then in 17 it's $45.12. So we're all over the board as to what, but we're not at 47.28 anymore. So that went by the wayside too. So I don't know how they're gonna resolve all this. So
What was it that Jack said, wait and watch, or something like that?
stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned.
And don't
Very
turn the channel, because we had a lot of things that were stay tuned, because there are a lot of unanswered questions right now. So I think that's everything.
Okay. You want to talk about HIPAA then?
Yeah, and then we'll just go right into
Okay.
HIPAA. Are you sitting up here? Or?
No, I'll sit back here.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I know we talked, it's been a few weeks ago, when Jane and I came up and had said that it was overwhelming and too much for us to try to get the policies and procedures and do all of the meeting work and everything else. And so I know we had also talked about hiring someone in the future to take this over, and that Jane and I would try to fill in the meantime. And I know Jane's doing the training currently for new employees, new hires, those kind of things, and we're handling the breach, if there are any, in the county between the two of us. And I just I was meeting with Carrie during budget time to try to figure out what do we do, how do we plan for a person. We don't have any idea what it's going to require at this point, because we haven't got into it far enough to know what is it, a part-time position, full-time position, do we combine things, what do we do? And decided to call Paul and just run it by him and see if he had any experience with this in other counties, how they have it set up, those type of things. And in our conversation, he thought he could maybe take a look at doing the policies and procedures, help out with those kind of things. And then at that point we could possibly look at developing a job description, go through the compensation committee, be able to plan more efficiently for a position, or what we need for this county to oversee HIPAA at that point in time. And so I asked Paul to run some numbers and give his opinion of what he thought it would take to get that policy manual done, get everything up and running, and then we could hand it off at that point in time to someone that we could identify to handle that position for the county. It's just, I think Paul has said it's a little more than he even expected. I don't know if you want to speak to it, but there's a lot to it, and Jane and I just aren't getting to it. So.
And every county's facing this. I don't have any counties that have a part-time or a full-time employee whose job it is to do the HIPAA primarily. So I don't have anybody like that. So when first presented to me, the thought I had is if we run an ad in the Tipton Conservative for somebody with HIPAA experience, I don't think we're getting anybody.
No.
And if it's going to be a full-time job and you're paying, I don't know, $30,000 a year plus benefits, So my thought was, I don't know that we need to be talking about a new employee at all at this point. It sounds like what we need to do is get the system in place. Once the system's in place, we'll have a better idea of the ongoing administrative costs of that. And to me, it's quite possible that, we can have one person do that, or we can pass on those duties to different pieces and try to avoid hiring an employee at all to try to address these things. But then the question is how do we get up to speed? In looking at this, it's changed. I put in HIPAA plans, but they've been 15 years ago, and everything's different now. So essentially what I think the county needs to do is, I know you've done parts of this, but essentially a gap analysis. Where are we right now, and where do we need to be? And then we need to do a bunch of work with policy and procedural things to get people up to speed. We need to be doing audits to find out what breakdowns we see, what problems we have. We have to create service provider agreements. There's a whole bunch of documentation kind of administrative things that we need to get into place. Once that system is built, then we need to come up with probably a series of different training modules for the different departments. And that I don't know that secondary roads is going to need the same training that public health is going to need, right? And get all of that in place so it's ready to be done and implemented by somebody. They don't have to have that expertise. All they need to know is how to run the system and do that administration. So, with that, there are companies you can hire if you want to that I'm certain could help you through that process. If you wanted me to do it, my best estimate is my estimate is somewhere between 80 and 100 hours of work. So I would be able to do that for the county at a cost of $7,500. But again, if that seems like a big number or you're not sure, I would say, go out and talk to other entities that might want to perform that as well. My guess is it's probably less expensive than someone else. But to me, if you pay that $7,500 fee, it's far cheaper than having an employee in here full time. And at least you'd get to a point where you'd have the system in place, and then once it's ready to roll and be implemented, I think we could probably ask different employees and maybe different departments to step up and say, hey, take on this responsibility, take on this role.
I think we were talking about sharing one too, weren't we? With another county, exploring that.
We have for in the future to oversee it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's enough. I mean, the cost of that is, again, you would be the only county I have that has their own HIPAA compliance. I have lots of them that have a HIPAA compliance officer that serves in a different role, but I don't have anybody whose sole duty it is to maintain a HIPAA system. And I would be surprised if you need someone on an ongoing basis for 20 hours a week. I mean, if you split one and it was half-time, that still could be a $20,000, $25,000 a year expense to the county that I don't know that you need.
Have you done this for any other counties, written their HIPAA policy?
To a point, I've got a number of counties asking me if I want to do it. I'm kind of saying, not really, but I will. So none of them have got to this level. I think Cedar County is a little bit ahead of the game, that you actually pulled a committee together internally to try to tackle this. So my counties are aware of it. It's just back burner everywhere else. They're like, yeah, we'll get to it. We haven't been sued yet, and we're not going to have a problem.
Well, and that's what hangs over my head, and I know Jane as well. We don't want to be in that situation. We want to get this done. We want to, and obviously we've already said we just can't with what we have going on in our offices. But we don't want that hanging over our head that we're going to get sued or whatever because of a mistake because we weren't prepared.
Yeah, I have a lawsuit brought from a citizen against emergency management and veterans affairs. So this isn't a rare thing. I mean, in just the few counties I work with, I have one that's got a live HIPAA lawsuit that they've worked through, but they were in violation. We had the emergency management director, the veterans affairs director told the emergency management director, I wouldn't hire this guy because he's on a full-blown veterans disability. And so the emergency management director said, we can't hire you. And he's like, why? He's like, because of your disability. And the citizen's like, how do you know I have a disability? Well, the Veterans Affairs director told me. So, I mean, that happens. I mean, it's
well, and it could be as easy as a slip of the tongue, just like that situation. And we need we need to have all of our policies in place so we can deal with that effectively and have documentation and show how we dealt with it, and otherwise we are going to find ourselves in a very costly situation. So I know we talked to Jane, Paul and I did meet with Jane and let her know that we were coming up today, and we were all in favor for it, getting started and getting to the point where we have this the policies. I think is what's so overwhelming, is we need to get them done. Paul could oversee it, develop them. Jane and I have already said we're willing to do our part. Paul just needs to delegate and tell us that would be much more manageable than us trying to do all of that. So I think that's why we wanted to come to the board today and see if this is even a possibility for this fiscal year yet to get this done. I just don't know how long we want to wait to get this all put together and done. So I guess we wanted your opinions and insight on it.
Well, we need to amend the budget since we don't have any. I'm assuming we don't have anything in there in the current budget. So
Well,
if we do anything, it'd have to be amended, right?
Well, we could always put it in the budget and pay them after the budget year starts, or even the following year.
That would be me.
County's got good credit.
I'm not getting into that. I'm staying out of that discussion. I'll let you handle that.
Well, I guess I agree with you, Julie. You and Jane don't have time to work on that manual.
Not for that amount of time.
No,
and
not
we
the amount of
obviously,
time
as
it's gonna
we
take.
were meeting and we were delving into it, the writing on the wall became very apparent how much time is needed, and we just don't have the time to devote to that. And in a week's time, or we're just not able to do it.
And again, it's not, if you would, I have no problem or concerns if you'd say, that's a good idea, but why don't we go and get some formal quotes? I don't have any problem with that. If you wanted to use me, what I would anticipate is that Julie and Jane have both said they're willing to help still. And so what I would anticipate, I'm already here at least monthly for a department head meeting, so I'd anticipate if we were able to start this now, that I would try to probably get meetings set up every other week.
Yeah.
That I'm like, this is where we are, this is what I've written, you guys review it, I'm going to get moving on this part. I think depending on their schedules, it's something we could have done by the 1st of July. But it's really a scheduling issue. They were not able to tackle this countywide because of their schedules. So we would certainly do our best to try to get this done within that period of time, and I think that's very reasonable.
So if we would approve you to go ahead and do this manual, any updates would be in your regular rate. I mean, it'd be in your monthly.
Yeah, once it's in place.
Once it's in place, if there's any updates, you do them for nothing for us.
Yeah, I think then we're fine. And just, if it turns into...
yeah, that won't take very long to even do at that point.
Then it'll just be tweaking that system.
Mm-hmm. And so then the ongoing details would be split between...
Or however we want to set it up at that point. Which we'll have more discussion and bring that to you for decision on that too, once we get to that point and get through all of what needs to be done up front.
And that's where I think some of it could be handed off. If we have 8 different training modules, depending on what department you work, I'll go to Rob and say, Rob, when you hire a new secondary roads employee, I want you to do this training and get this signed up. So I think it can be delegated to those departments specifically to say, when you hire them, note you have to go through this PowerPoint with them. So that cost would be getting the system up and running up to that point where we're ready to hand it off to someone else. Any other tweaks or updates to service agreements, that's 10 minutes of work.
Yeah, so that won't be, that's just the overwhelming task of even getting
the initial.
That's the issue.
The thing is, I don't know who else should even contact even do that.
And to be perfectly honest, I really think the cost would be a lot higher.
At one time there,
I just think it would.
They talked about Heartland, contacting Heartland out there, that they'd have to do it for all the counties, but and then you're talking about an attorney doing it out there. So,
well, and you're looking at attorney fees, and that gets pretty costly in itself. So
my only problem with it is having Paul do it, and then you do it for another county. You're going to take our manual and you're going to charge them the same price and use our manual.
But
remember, charge them $7,000.
But remember,
do we get rebate for that?
I can work something out that way.
But remember, we're already using that one manual that all got handed out at the one meeting that we're part of that group. So we're already taking that attorney developed. So we're already sort of taking that advantage too. So, but yeah. So we'll all be using basically the same manual anyway, I think, for the counties, a lot of them anyway, so.
Be anything wrong with calling it, because Heartland would be the one that would have to defend us in a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Running all this by them, see if they think it looks, see if, because they've got even a broader view, look and see if it seems cost effective and the right approach, and then
I think
get back.
Judy's on vacation yet. She's down in Sedona, Arizona this week. I think she's coming back Monday, so I can check with her.
Okay.
First part of the week on it.
Okay.
Find out.
She'll have a broad
Do
view
you,
of this is the.
do you need us to come back, or will you make a decision and let us know, or?
We can make a decision and let you know. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can check with Judy next week on it.
Okay.
When she gets back from vacation. So.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Well, if the board's going downstairs, I assume I need to take all these microphones and everything downstairs, so.
We're gonna.
Right?
Yeah, you want to show there. That's up to you if you want to take them out.
Probably should to put it on
Yeah,
now.
probably.
Okay, I'm gonna
Started this, so.
Okay.
Where do you want us the first one? Anywhere? Good morning. Thank you for having us. I'm Joan McCalmont, the Lynn County Recorder, and I just wanted to kick the meeting off in place of Kim Painter, who is not here. I think the recorders are guilty of being, hesitant to promote our offices. I think people don't realize what we do, how well we do it. We make it look easy. But there are people in the community, banks, attorneys, abstractors, genealogists, who depend on us. In 2008, our office was under the Cedar River, basically, came through Cedar Rapids. And I didn't realize how important I was in the whole scheme of things until one of the local banks called me and wanted to know when we would be open again, because they had to record the mortgages to sell them on the secondary market so they could lend people in the community money to fix their homes. So I'm a firm believer in having an autonomous elected official in charge of a department that important to make decisions that really does make a difference in the community. I just want to encourage you, and I do thank you for taking us seriously. And I encourage you to recognize how important it is that you have someone in the office that cares, and that makes it very important. Their most important duty is to respond to the community, to people that depend on us. And again, I thank you for having us. And I think Nancy from Lee County is next.
Thank you for allowing us the time this morning to speak. I'm not a professional speaker by any means, so I will refer to my notes. I'm sorry. I'm Nancy Booten, and I'm the Lee County Recorder. And like many people in the public and probably supervisors, I had no idea what a recorder's office did when I was appointed in 2010. I mean, I knew we recorded documents there, but I didn't realize all the work that went on behind the scenes and what it took to do this job. We're not just figureheads with a title. We're not just a title on a piece of paper or a monetary figure on a piece of paper. We're hardworking individuals in charge of many different processes. For one thing, we preserve the record title to all the real property in your county. And Iowa's land-based title system is envied by many, many states. We also have the Iowa Land Record System, which is the first in the nation for e-submissions, and we are very proud of that. A lot of other states are looking at our system to model after it. People commonly think that the recorders just take in a document and stick a number on it, and that's called recording the document. But that's not where it stops. There's a lot of detail that goes on after that, and besides assigning the number, we scan it and make sure that the scan is a good copy of the record, and then we're charged with preserving that record. We have to make sure it's protected, just like in Joan's case. We have to back that up somewhere in case of a disaster. We're also in charge of the vital records. We issue birth, death, and marriage certificates, marriage license, and then we register and title boats, ATVs, and ORVs. And each process is handled differently and involves multiple steps. We're also charged with creating budgets, and as you know, those can be quite difficult to do sometime and time-consuming. The important thing is situations arise daily for recorders to make decisions regarding documents or vital records or a recreational vehicle. I've been amazed at the number of issues that come up with somebody coming in, well, I had this boat sitting on my grandpa's land for 50 years, it's never been registered, and now they want to sell it, you know. So we have to look at these things and figure out that we do the right thing. So these decisions need to be made immediately. If a clerk has to go and search for a department head and say, what do I do with this? That's not an efficient way to do business. The auditor is already in charge of quite a few duties that require attention to detail and timelines. So adding additional processes to learn and administer wouldn't serve the public well at all. There's only so much that one person can be responsible for and monitor. Recorders attend meetings 3 times a year with state departments where we're updated on our processes. And I've been amazed since I've been a recorder in the short 4+ years how many changes have come down the pike. You know, they just seem like monthly sometimes. The additional duties for your recorder would also most likely include an increase in the pay. And this decreases your proposed savings. Eliminating a title for one person doesn't mean that you can continue the work of that department without hiring a replacement. That replacement more than likely would be a deputy, and that further reduces your cost savings. When you increase the auditor's pay, every deputy below that auditor, her pay is increased at the same percentage since they're paid on a percentage. Appointing a deputy to perform the duties of a recorder, such as in Marshall County, is asking an individual to do the recorder's work without the deserved pay. You also open up your county to possible liability with the likelihood of error by one department head handling too many different detail processes. You place the decision on a deputy. If a deputy makes a decision and something comes of that, it doesn't fall on the deputy, it falls on the auditor. In 2010, we had a committee in Lee County that looked at the option of combining our offices because the current recorder was retiring, and I was appointed to fill his last year. That committee looked at a lot of facts that they had gathered, but in the long run, it was determined that that minimal cost saving and the possible liability to the county wasn't great enough to pursue the matter any further, so they decided to keep the position of recorder. It's also not worth simply eliminating an independent elected official who is directly accountable to the public. You're taking away something from the public where they have a voice in electing people to these positions. So remember, it's not just a title on a piece of paper, financially or figuratively. We are responsible for a multitude of things that go on in your county. So I thank you.
Good morning. I'm Travis Case. I'm the Grundy County Recorder. You might have seen some information from me. I wrote a letter to your editor in the local paper. So I'm just going to kind of highlight some of the points you might have already seen that I've made. I started my employment in the Marshall County Recorder's Office in April 2008. We did have a combination that took effect in January 1st of 2011. So I've had 4 years of experience with one of these combinations. Marshall County has a population around 40,000 and an annual county budget of around $26 million. The ballot initiative in Marshall County was pushed largely due to a personality conflict. It's really not a secret around there. Excuse me. There were some cooperation issues with some of the other offices that the recorder had, and customer service was a little bit of an issue. So those were kind of the driving force. And those issues were eliminated due to that combination, but more as due to a fact of who was terminated, not as a result of the combination. I'll go on record of saying that I don't think it's personality conflict would be an appropriate reason to look at the elimination of an elected office. There's a process already in place for that. It's called an election. The first thing that people would assume would work together efficiently is probably the most difficult: real estate. The functions are so very different between the auditor and recorder's offices in regards to real estate. It creates a competitive environment as to which code specified functions should be followed. Iowa is a race to record state. There's no title insurance in the state of Iowa. So for example, when an abstracting company has completed their search and they deliver a document to be recorded, it's with the good faith that they've done their due diligence and there are no clouds, liens, or judgments against a title. Well, the auditor's job, on the converse, is to make notation in the transfer books after the fact. If there's an issue with that transfer, they must send a problem letter to the parties involved and get them to file a corrective document to fix whatever's wrong with that. So when you got those two things trying to work together, naturally you're going to have auditor real estate staff that want to avoid those problem letters in advance. So document content policing becomes the norm, and it opens the county up to lots of legal liabilities. Essentially, I guess you could call it practicing law without a license. If a document is held and they want to try and research it, and this abstracting company assumes that this document was put on file when they delivered it, what's to stop Joe Blow's septic service from coming up to the clerk of court and filing a mechanics lien in the interim? That's a liability that the county can very well face. Combining those two offices, it blurs the lines and it takes a lot of the accountability out of the real estate process. We did run into some of this in Marshall County. I had an abstractor one time come screaming in the office because it was supposed to go on file, and the auditor staff was taking a look at legal descriptions, and they wanted to fix that issue before it was recorded, and it was a real problem, and it was a fine line that we tried to walk, because we did want to try and be as efficient as possible, but it was a constant battle. Another issue that this is going to affect is if you have a working department head, which we had in Marshall County, and the population of your county is about half of what we were. So I'm going to make every assumption that your auditor and your recorder comes to work every day and does the job. They're not just simply a ministerial position. If you eliminate that elected, the workload is still there, as Nancy said. You have to replace that body with somebody, most likely a deputy. I was in that position myself. I was the deputy. It puts more responsibility and more stress on those deputies without any additional compensation. Now, we tried a little bit of a hybrid experiment when I was in Marshall County, because not only was I the recorder's deputy, I was also the elections director. Well, let me tell you from firsthand experience, being able to concentrate on one of those jobs and do the best job to my ability was not the easy thing to do when I had those two tasks. I think I did a fairly good job at that, but there were things that probably slipped through the cracks when we tried to put those two things together. Elections are feast or famine. When it's election time, you have to concentrate on those. Those other recorder duties, having to pay attention to the law changes and things coming down from the legislature. Some of those things we were a little behind the times on, simply because trying to keep up with both of those affiliates and both of their duties, it was tough. I feel I'm a pretty capable individual, and it was really tough to do. And if that's what you're gonna find that with that department head, they're no longer going to be able to roll up their sleeves and pitch in. They're going to have to delegate, and they're going to have to have somebody that watches over that affiliate. The recorder's affiliate, so many changes, like Nancy has said, they come through. We deal with several different state departments, the Department of Public Health, the Department of Revenue, the DNR, and they're constantly changing code sections, they're constantly changing the way things are done, and it's our job to keep up on that as public servants. So I think you really lose the ability to have a really great auditor and a really great recorder. We had a fantastic department head that stepped into that position, and I sat right outside her office, and I got to watch every day as she was pulled in 3 different directions. She didn't have the time anymore to roll up her sleeves and pitch in. In 4 years, she didn't have time to learn all the functions of the recorder's office. She didn't have time to learn all the functions, or she knew all the functions of elections, but she didn't have time to devote to them like she wanted to. It's simply too much for one person, in my opinion, from seeing it for 4 years. Cost savings. Space is always an issue. In Marshall County, they remodeled 3 offices after this combination. New carpet, new counters, all sorts of things. I know they didn't save any money there. That costs money. What do you actually save? The potential, maybe, but the difference between an elected's salary and a deputy, which is a pretty small drop in the bucket when you look at the overall scheme of things. So I'm going to close by saying that if it's really about cost savings, I think there's other options you can look at. And I mean no disrespect by this, but Cedar County is a Plan 1 supervisor district, and 331.204 allows a board of supervisors in a 5-member county to simply pass a resolution reducing the number of supervisors to 3. That can be done without a petition, the cost of an election, the expense of remodeling spaces, and that would save you 2 salaries plus benefits. But I don't think anybody is going to want to lose that elected person that represents them. And it's the same thing with the recorder. So that's all I have, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's it. I don't know if any of the public has any questions.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in the legislature, I worked with recorders a lot. And 2 things that I saw happen, I want you to see if this is logical. I saw a lot of times that the state was trying to pull some functions away from the recorder's offices to consolidate things at the state, take away more local control. Seems to me, if we don't have a duly elected recorder, that's going to be easier for the state to do. The other thing I have, because I'm very, very skeptical of anything consolidation. I see it's constantly, there's that constant pressure to do that from some of our good neighbors possibly that would around us, and we're in a very susceptible situation here in Cedar County with 4 large, more urban counties around us. Seems to me if we don't have a recorder, and I know of only 1 refereed study on consolidating of offices, and it involved district judges, district courts in the 80s, and that's the only thing I know, and it ended up that it actually cost more money. And so it seems to me that if we don't have a duly elected recorder, it would be easier for those entities that want to consolidate counties in and of themselves to do that with 1 less elected official. And they've got an example right there in the courthouse that the folks that I talked to in Woodbury County tell me that isn't necessarily a match made in heaven. Any comments to that? From the recorders?
Well, I personally think that if you take an elected office away, chances are the state's going to want to take more control over and over. And we don't want to have to go to 1 place in the state to do that.
Or even regions, say district or regionalized courthouses. I think it would put us more at susceptibility or risk that you would be going somewhere else.
And the
You're a
pressures
county
are there.
without a recorder.
And the pressures are there every year, every session to take things away from the local counties. And I just think it'll be easier to do if you don't have an elected recorder. So those cost savings better be gigantic for the price that you potentially pay for that, in my opinion.
I think all of those that are involved, all of us that are involved in county government, there's a little more more accountability when you can walk into an office and look that office door in the eye, or come into a board of supervisors meeting like this, and look those supervisors in the eye, control that county budget. I think when you want to look at the big picture as far as, like you say, county government works, the state government, that's to be there's some issues there. I'm not going to delve into that, but it's a process that I think the citizens, they would really lose a lot if they weren't able to come in and look that elected person in the face and say, why are you doing this? Or good job doing this. You don't hear it enough, but I'm sure your recorder here is doing a great job, probably running a pretty lean office. If it's not broke, why fix it?
And I'll piggyback on that. Our office does passports, and we have a post office 5 blocks down the street. But people come to us because of the service, and because they appreciate having someone at the counter helping them. And that's what we do. We serve the people just like you serve the people. We take it very seriously, and we're responsible for everyone in our offices. And you're right, you would lose another voice of reason against that mindless consolidation theory.
I'm not so sure
why this was brought up for Cedar County and who thought that we would eliminate an office. Why is this brought up in Cedar County?
I think it was a case of we had one supervisor who thought it might be a cost savings, and in my opinion it was, and the reason I was in favor of actually doing the study, the feasibility study, was to show if it was feasible and if it wasn't feasible. And if it's determined that it's not feasible, it really puts that to bed. It has to go before election anyway. But if we find that it's not feasible, why would we even take that next step? And so sometimes you have to explore other options to look at county savings. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to act on it. It just means that we're exploring it to find out if it's even feasible. And believe me, we've had stuff come down both sides, and for the most part, in the information I've done, when I've done my background check on it, I'm not finding it to be a huge savings for a county our size. So.
Well, I had a phone call this morning about a guy that uses the Cedar counties a lot, and he couldn't be here, and he wanted me to express his opinion that they have a well-oiled machine there. Very personable, do an excellent job. I would hate to see that be eliminated.
When I was told that you were looking into possible cost savings with consolidation of offices, it was expressed that it wasn't just my office. Can anybody tell me which other offices you're looking at?
And some of it had to do with office space. Yeah. I think that was the real reason it was brought up by the one supervisor. Office space.
Okay. I was just reassured it wasn't just me at that meeting, so.
I don't think you're going to see any cost savings in consolidation, quite frankly, in any of the elected offices, but I'll wait to see what the report
No,
says.
and I agree. Consolidation is consolidation on any level. If you consolidate the recorder, you're putting us more at risk. But if you're looking at other offices, I was just curious since I was told it wasn't just me. I'm not for consolidation at county level at all. If you don't have a treasurer, an auditor, a recorder, you need all of our departments.
What concerns me is if we do consolidating and we lose an office, we lose one now, we lose another one later, I can possibly see where down the road, and it can be a while down the road, but I'd hate to see us losing our county seat.
That's the point I was trying to make, Bob.
That's
yes.
right. It's kind of the writing on the wall, and I'd hate to see that happen.
I'm not on the government side, on the county side, but I come to you on the city side. I sit here on the city council. My name is David Fry. I'm coming up on my 24th year of being a community member here in Tipton. One of the perks, I guess, of coming to a smaller community as a funeral director, which is what I do, that's the reason I am here. I have a very vested interest in this office. I wholeheartedly agree with your opinion about consolidating the offices. I don't think that'll work at all. My vested interest is in the fact that have dealt with a lot of you, more Lynn County, Johnson County, and Cedar County, and Scott County with death certificates. We have just gone through this change in the last year and a half where, as funeral directors, we would always have to go to the county where the death occurred to file the death certificate, then we would have to go back and get our certified copies through you. And it all worked, but it was just more of a headache for every funeral director, and it was chasing papers back and forth, plus the mileage and or the mail service. We're on a time constraint with death certificates that's issued by the state in order to get these papers and documents filed. In the new transition, we now do this electronically, which is great for us, but we still go to the counties to get our death certificates. I suspect probably the biggest loser in the death certificate arena would be Johnson County, because a lot of people go into Johnson County, they go to the hospitals, and then they would pass away. But their homes are outside of the area, such as Cedar County, Johnson, or other counties that surround there. So we're able to get our paperwork, which means revenue for the counties, stay in our home counties, which is a good thing. I watched personally the recorder's office go from 4 employees down to 3, and I think they seem to be busy all the time when I'm up there. They operate efficiently. I'm very, very pleased with what's going on. I understand from a city level, as Wayne knows from the city level, you have to be very cognizant of budgets. That's what we're doing right now too. We're looking at the city budgets, making sure that we can get everything to fit properly. But I don't think this is the answer. One of the things that appealed to me 24 years ago was Tipton was the county seat. And I had a lot of different places I was looking at to locate at that time. One of the businessmen who's no longer alive told me at that time, said, David, if you ever lose the courthouse here or lose offices, you will gradually see that funnel down to where you won't have that. And this is the hub, the economic hub of Cedar County and Tipton, quite frankly. So I guess I'm just going to come forward. I support the office. I cannot see eliminating the office of the recorder. So I would urge you to definitely stay on the side of keeping that office in place. We all have to look for places to cut budget, and I'm not sure where that's at. I don't deal on your level. I just deal on the other level over there. So thank you for everything. I can bring more arsenal as far as the funeral director supply on this. I'll soon be the president of our state association as well. So if you want more input before you make a decision on this, I'd be happy to get it from the state level all the way across the state as well. So thank you for listening.
I think everybody's got a misunderstanding. First of all, the supervisors cannot eliminate the office. It's got to go by a vote of the people. There's got to be a petition, and it will be on the general ballot. If the petition comes to us, we have to honor it. There's nothing we can do about it. Mm-hmm. And that petition, that vote would be taken in 2016 on the general election. So it's not up to the supervisors. Mm-hmm. You know, we're looking at space in the courthouse. So everybody's trying to blame the supervisors. It's not the supervisors. It could be a petition from the public out there, you know, if they want it. It was brought up by one supervisor that he wanted to have our HR person look into it, and he did look into it, and that's all we're following right now. But if it comes about, it's still got to be a petition from the public out there. And I think that supervisor said we had to have 1,400 signatures, I think. And if they present a petition to us, we got to put it on the ballot. and then it's up to the general public. It's not up to the supervisors. The only reason we brought it up was for space in the courthouse, to realign the offices in the courthouse so we had some more different rooms. So.
But you don't need a ballot issue for space, for realignment. That can be done with communication to department head about what would fit their needs. And a vote was taken, and all of the supervisors voted to look into consolidation. Feasibility.
Not
So
doing
that's,
it,
no, but
feasibility.
that's why I think we're here, not blaming you, but saying these are not good reasons.
Well, I hope that I assume that the study's gonna come back and the savings are not gonna be there. And quite frankly, I hope that the study is an educational tool to the people so that a petition does not seem feasible to them. That's what now maybe I'll be wrong, but that's what I think is gonna happen, because I haven't seen anything yet that shows this consolidation saves money. We gotta do due diligence. Let's see what he comes up with, and I have a feeling what he's gonna come up with is this is not feasible for what we have to lose.
We
Maybe
did
I'm wrong.
study it in Lynn County years ago. It was probably 1998. And one of the more active people on the committee that was doing this study actually quit because he said they were wasting their time. The savings wasn't there, and it wasn't worth his time. So there are counties who have done this study, and very few have come up with the answer they were looking for.
What do you guys hear from Woodbury? Because I always hear about Woodbury, where it works, and that's what Woodbury County, some folks in Woodbury County say, what do you hear from Woodbury? Because that's what's always thrown out there as the example.
From what I understand, Woodbury, and you know, I was on the committee that after this had gone through this petition, which, for the record, the supervisors were actually pushing the petition in Marshall County. I was on the committee after the ballot measure passed. You know, and the public just simply looked at it as oh, we're going to save some money? Okay. You know, who doesn't want to save money? You know, which taxpayer doesn't think that's a good idea? There wasn't enough education to the public about the process. But in the course of being on the committee that you know, had to figure out, okay, how are we going to try and make this work after the fact? You know, we reached out to Woodbury County, and from what I found, they didn't really do a whole lot. You know, they moved their real estate into one department, but they still pretty much function as they did before. And I think they took the DNR registrations and assigned those to the treasurer. So there was more workload for them, so I'm assuming they had to increase staff a bit for that. But I failed to, we never really got the answer of how they saved money up there. You know, I think the only savings I could see would potentially be the difference between that elected, and they have a deputy recorder now. She performs the job of the office of the recorder. Essentially they took a title away, and you know, I don't know what the difference between two salaries there is in that county. I haven't done that homework, but for what they lost, you can't tell me the little tiny bit of savings they may have realized from that was worth what they've lost.
Yeah, a number of years ago, a group of us came to Des Moines to talk to you when they were trying to, I don't know if it was Scott County take over ours, if it was move our courthouse, or if it was just the judicial system. Do you recall, you know, what brought that about? I'm afraid, like Bob said, that if we don't do that, then what else can we do? Should we be taken over by Scott County?
Yeah, that was actually the chief judge initiated that, and they were trying to take the rural in the 7th Judicial District. They were trying to take like Jackson County, Cedar County, even Muscatine County, which is a wake-up call to them, and begin to consolidate those services. That was the chief judge, Marcia Turnus, at that time, that was attempting that. So what we were doing on that day is having a press conference with all of those folks to show that it would be a huge harm to Cedar County if we closed down the judicial portion of our courthouse. So it's kind of like that, only the judicial system is separated from the actual county government.
But if they take the judicial, then all of a sudden we take this, then
Well,
we're
yes.
gone.
And there is county consolidation efforts. I mean, I probably should be neutral until I see the study, but to be quite frank, I hope this study lays this question to rest. for a good long time. And I think it will, because I absolutely do not see where any savings would be except for a slight. But I probably shouldn't even say that, because I gotta wait, we need to look and see what you need facts and information to be able to justify not doing something.
I would wonder if the study would include talking and watching all of these offices function and see what they do. I mean, you can look at a piece of paper and say, recorders are in charge of documents and votes and ATVs and title. That doesn't seem like a lot of work if you look at those three things. But you actually have to be there and watch the processes and know it. So if an HR person looks at this on paper and looks at figures, you're going to see a minimal cost savings. But are they also looking at the liability you're opening up? There's additional costs when you, again, add deputies to cover that. And knowing what they do in the office every day. It's not just, it's this much money, it's how much work we're doing. That's part of it. I don't think an HR person that doesn't truly come and look at every function in every office and watch it for a time and make that determination and actually say it's a good study. If they're just looking at figures. I don't think that's a good study in my opinion.
And being in charge of the office, no respect for the courthouse for almost 25 years. I work with this office every day. I work with the auditor's office every day. The assessor's office every day. I work with them every day. This is an efficiently run office that takes pride in public service. We work for the public. People may hate my guts, I don't care, but I'm going to give my damnedest to help those people. And the very ones that have wanted to kill me, literally, I've had more 911 calls than anybody else in this office, in this courthouse, on my office. Also come back to my office because they know I don't hold grudges and I'm going to be there for them. She's the same way. We have to work together every darn day, whether it be environmental health, whether it be zoning. And we don't throw anybody under the bus. We help both departments all the time. There is no such thing as a stupid question from the public or from each department. If you try to condense that, it's going to make it weird. It'll become a model of inefficiency instead of efficiency.
Okay, I think you presented your case to us. We have a meeting and we have stuff on the agenda we have to take care of also. So I think at this time, we've heard everything that I want to hear anyhow. But like I say, it's not up to the Board of Supervisors. If they present a petition to us, we have to honor it, So at this time, we're going to recess and we're going back up to the boardroom and conduct our board meeting. So thank you.
Thank you very much. There you go.
Ready? Ron, you want to pull up a chair and give us a highlight on it?
Sure. We just sit here, is that for you?
Yeah.
My name is Ron Berg. I'm the CEO or the director of MECA, and we have just recently changed our name to Prelude Behavioral Health Services, or Behavioral Services. I'll just pass around some brochures on that. I just wanted to take a couple minutes and update the board on our activities here in Cedar County, and then see if there's any questions. We've been serving Cedar County since the late 1970s. I was actually the counselor coming up here once a week in the mid-'80s, and I see her name is still on a plaque downstairs where I have my office. It's kind of funny to see that today. Late in the 80s, the Board of Supervisors needed the office space where we were, so we went and rented some space out in the community. In exchange for that, at that time, the board agreed to fund us $1,200 a year to help offset the cost of the rent, and that's kind of where the funding from Cedar County started with our services. Since that time and continuing now, we've been doing both treatment services and prevention activities in Cedar County. We have a counselor here one day a week. We have an office on 6th Street, 216 East 6th Street is where our office is located. And that office also gives our prevention staff a place to operate from. And right now we are offering several different prevention activities. One is called Life Skills, another one is called Girls Circles. We're in the Tipton High Schools as well as the alternative schools. We've been active in West Branch over the years and down in south of here. The town is escaping me.
Durant.
Yeah. We had some United Way funding out of Cedar Rapids that funded some programs. We've had some federal grants that we've been able to staff here in Cedar County. So our activities kind of ebb and flow as we're able to secure some funding for specific projects. Our overall services include outpatient treatment, which we offer here locally. We are also trying to expand some distance treatment service so that clients have access to our services without driving to Iowa City or on days other than when we have a staff person here. And that's getting to slow start. It's kind of a struggle to get clients engaged in that distance treatment. We also offer out of our Iowa City office residential and detoxification service, and we can accept clients who are under a committal order from the county as well. We do all of that out of our Iowa City office. Last year, at some point, I don't know exactly when, Bev, you might remember, but we started getting a matching contract out of the State Department of Public Health, and they would give, if Cedar County gave us $900, the Iowa Department of Public Health would give us $300, and we've been doing that for quite a few years. And they have been making, they being the state office, has been making some changes, and the reporting requirements have gotten to the point that, in our estimation, the time that Bev is investing and that we're investing doesn't equal the $300 value that we're getting from the state. And I think we got a little confused on that last year in talking with the offices here. And our recommendation was that we not spend the time pursuing that $300 from the state just because of the cost involved in making all of the reports and so on. It was not lack of gratitude for the effort and the support. It was just our calculation, and it just didn't seem to equal what we were getting. So I hope that if there's questions about that, I can clear up any concerns about why we had that conversation. So that's really the update. We do treatment, we do prevention. I also should mention we offer services for gambling in Cedar County as well, both prevention and treatment. So we do the outpatient treatment, prevention, and then we offer the residential and detox and committal services out of our Iowa City office. Any questions?
Going back to that $300, Ron, so you're saying that we just give you the $900 and then don't apply for the extra $300?
Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
So, in other words, it'll just cost us $900 a year.
Yeah, and less staff time.
Oh, that's what you. Right now, you send us a bill, we pay you $1,200, and then we apply for it.
You get that, yeah. So, yeah, it would just be the $900.
So you just.
And,
I know Bev said.
Well, if you want to give us 12, if you want to give us 12,
but we have this agreement with them for the $1,200, so.
So we just amend that, or again, I hate to say it, don't want.
We'd have to amend it and then send them a copy of it, but
yeah,
have them sign it. Is that okay, Ron?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the state's going to say. They required the semi-annual report now.
Yeah,
we will know how many people in Cedar County you serve. Well, nobody was breaking that down.
We will.
Correct?
Yeah.
So I don't know that I sent the information I had for the semi-annual report, and I told them that you were going to start breaking it down, because that's what I was told.
Okay.
And I don't know if the state will accept that and give us the $300 or not. I don't know.
Well, if there's any problem, let us know and we'll make it fair, okay? That would just be our intent.
Because the letter I got from them, it's once you get this form filled out, it isn't that much of a problem doing it every year.
IowaGrants.gov.
Yeah, it's the tracking on our end, it's the applying, it's the stuff that's behind filling that out.
So are they tracking it now?
We should be. I'll go back and verify that.
I mean,
but we need to finish out this year's contract the way it is. So that, any changes wouldn't be until the next fiscal year.
I'm just wondering because I'm not going to be working here in the end of February, and I want to know to tell the next person what to expect. So.
We have I was appointed to the MECA board. I understand we used to have such a thing. Is such a thing, I can't see any, is there still a MECA board?
There is a MECA board, and in 2010, we went through our strategic planning process, and at that point we realized that we really needed to target membership on our board for the skill sets that we were looking for. So we were looking for accountants and some attorneys to be on the board. And we have not had a Board of Supervisor representative on the board from any county since 2010.
So unless we hear from you, essentially we don't have to have participation on the event? Okay.
Correct.
That's the okay, got it.
So the board they did get an invoice from Mecca for $1,200. I think I sent it around.
It might still
Do
be
you recommend we go
sitting
ahead
there.
and pay that?
Yeah, for this year, I'd recommend you go ahead and pay that. We'll make sure that we get the information to this, for you to file for the state so you can get your $300 back from the state. And then going forward, just
Amend
assume.
that agreement, right?
Yeah.
Send an amendment to you people, then you sign it and then bring it back in.
So for the first half, we don't know the exact Cedar County statistics. So you're saying the second half when we report,
We should be okay.
know
And
that?
if there's any questions, we can talk with the state and,
Okay.
and work that out with them directly.
Then we should eliminate that
But-
back up from our.
Sure, yeah, you're on that committee. Which other committee you on?
So what happens is what the Cedar County funding supports and Johnson and also Iowa County supports our staff time responding to phone calls and internet inquiries about services. And we're not asking those folks, what county are you calling from, because it's just not really appropriate to ask them at that point. So that's the challenge we have in recording how many exactly come from Cedar. But we can look at some assumptions about how many are coming through this. So that's what we'll have to do.
Okay. Fun. Any more questions for Ron? Okay, thank you, Ron.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Jeff.
Thanks. Can you pass these around?
Sure.
Thanks for taking time to let me speak this morning to you. I did submit my budget to the auditor late last week. I did include the 4% for me, down from 5%. And I also kept my assistant county attorney at 85%. And I did this for the following reasons. One, my authority for doing this is the Iowa Code. And I've photocopied and highlighted the two code sections that directly apply to the assistant county attorney. And that is 331.757 parens 2. The county attorney shall determine the compensation paid to a full-time prosecutor within the budget set for the county attorney's office by the board. But that's the word shall. And also in 331.904 parens 3, the annual salary of each assistant county attorney shall be determined by the county attorney within the budget, of course, set by the county attorney's office by the board. This is what lawyers call black letter law. It's black letter because it's in black and white, and it contains the word shall. And that's the authority that I am using to keep Adam's salary at 85% of mine. This is something that I have thought through at some length before coming before you today. I talked about this with both prior Cedar County attorneys, and they agree with me on this 100%. I've also contacted the Iowa Attorney General's office. They agree with me 100% and will stand behind me on this. So there is case law on this. There are also advisory opinions from the Iowa Attorney General's office. I've also included one of the advisory opinions, and I highlighted a couple paragraphs at the top, a couple sentences on page 2. And I'd like to read these to you. The first one is, the annual salary of each assistant county attorney shall, not may, but shall be determined by the county attorney within the budget set for the county attorney's office by the board. And again, that you guys set the budget for our office, that's true, but I think it's just clear that the county attorney shall set the salary of the assistant county attorney. And then below that, subsection 3, referring to the above, makes it clear that the county attorney is given the authority to determine the salary of each assistant, as long as the salary is within the budget set by the board. Now, the next sentence is very important too. There is no statutory requirement that the county attorney seek prior board approval of the salaries awarded to his assistants, nor that he comply with the salary guidelines established for other county employees. Again, I'd like to emphasize this. This is an Iowa Attorney General's opinion, came down in 1986 and is still valid. That is, there is no statutory requirement that the county attorney seek prior board approval for the salary of my assistant. And the next clause, nor that the county attorney comply with the salary guidelines established for other county employees. And I read that black and white, saying that I do not have to comply with the salary guidelines established by the compensation study group. I think there's no other way to read it than that. And again, I've got the full support, 100% support of both former county attorneys and from the Attorney General's office on this. By having my assistant at 85% of my salary, I do not think you are carving out an exception to the county attorney's office. I think what you're doing is following the Code of Iowa.
The rest of your office is in the compensation study, and you're following that, correct?
Correct. The only difference is I'm keeping my assistant at 85% as I did in my original budget submission. I guess now it's up to you to decide what you want to do.
Well, the only way the board has any authority is to cut the bottom line of your budget.
Right.
And everybody knows what my feeling is, because I wanted to leave the salaries of the deputies in there for another year until we've redone it this next year. So that's my opinion. So
I just wanted to come and to explain to you why I did this. I mean, you all know that we were told from the get-go that the elected officials would not be covered by this compensation study group, nor would our deputies. And it's only when I got this last email from Carrie that says, "Hey, you got to change your budget, Jeff," and I'm not going to change it. And I'm relying on black letter law.
How many dollars and cents are we talking about?
I think we figured it up somewhere around between $3,000 and $3,500.
Jeff, do you know why the code has created this exception among the elected officers? I mean, just the history of it.
I don't, but it's clearly an exception.
Yeah.
The only reason I could see it is that not everybody off the street can come in and apply for assistant county attorney's job. It's got to have the training and the schooling.
Well, and they're not always everybody's favorite person either.
No.
Not that we have a problem.
That's all right.
I'm just saying that it's a love-hate relationship. They either like it or they don't. So.
Maybe it is because of it's. I mean, it is a special.
It pulls the politics.
It is a special position in the sense that it's the only one that requires 7 years of college, and it is genuinely 24/7. I know. I mean, genuinely, and you work lots of overtime. I mean, I bet you Adam would work about 300 hours of overtime pay per year, coming in on the weekends, getting ready for jury trials. And this is a salary position. He gets no overtime. And it's just same with me. It just comes with the job. You're expected to do that. But I think we are, and a couple weeks ago, Adam got a call, 1:30 in the morning. Had to go do a search warrant. Could get on the computer, go talk with the officers. One time, Tamara even had to get dressed and go down and to wake up a judge in Muscatine County to get the search warrant ordered. And then, of course, you can't go back to bed after that. So the next day you're dragging, and you don't get any extra pay for that. And we know that because we're salaried positions. And maybe that's why they treat this way. They know we're different. My county attorney, assistant county attorney deputy is significantly different, I think, than the other deputies in the departments here in the courthouse.
Now, the sheriff's deputies get overtime. Even before when they were on a salary, they were getting overtime. Is there any possibility that you could correct it that way, Jeff?
I don't know that you want to know how much overtime they're putting in.
Yeah, I think this would probably be the much more cost-effective way to answer, to resolve this situation.
And what's he get, what is his salary breakdown per hour?
Oh, I can't.
33 something an hour, isn't it?
Well, let's just say you're a little high on the 300, not saying you are, just for figuring.
Punch in 200.
Yeah, that would be.
34.92.
34?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're well over $8,000. That's with 250 hours, as opposed to 300.
So that's why I kept it at 85%, and then you control the budget, but I think I, by law, control what percentage I put in them. Okay?
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Veterans Affairs, Patty.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Long time no see. Might just want to pull up a seat here. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so after Thursday's meeting, resubmitted. Dawn and Brad were both in attendance at the commission meeting. The commission agreed to fund the 5 extra hours out of allocation money this fiscal year. Dropped the salary back to the starting pay grade for 16 to $22.64, with the assurances that it's going to be revisited, and you guys have told them that, and Dawn and Brad reiterated that. However, we are pretty tight on our budget, and with us taking the 5 hours out of allocation money, that only left us just a little over $3,000. And in order to do the Veterans Fair that we had planned on doing in November, usually we use allocation to backfill a lot of the line items that are appropriate in the county budget without raising them. We use some of the allocation towards April, May, and June of the fiscal year to do that. So we the commissioners talked with Dawn and Brad and came up with adding a $1,000 line item for outreach. So that way some of that outreach money could be used straight from the county budget, and then we still have money to backfill items as we go through the year if there's overspending. But for the most part, the majority of that allocation money will be spent on 5 extra hours. So I will bump to 40 hours with the combined 2 salaries or 2 offices starting July 1st.
And so your hourly rate would stay the same as what the comp study
Yep.
did? That's it. What was it, 22?
$22.64, which is the start step for pay grade 16.
And then all of the outreach dollars will then be applied to the state dollars. To the state fund, $10,000.
The state funding
that's
is
all outreach now.
That's well, the 5 hours is my salary. 60.
Her 5 extra hours comes out of the state.
Out of the state money.
I kind of looked at that as outreach. Okay.
Which and you can consider it outreach or just
Okay.
having the office. I mean, depends on how you look at it.
Gotcha.
I mean, some of it will be used for outreach hours. Yes.
And you'll have enough for your Kinnick Stadium events.
Yeah, that's why
we're all of those
that's where
things.
the
that you
extra
do?
1,000
The newsletter. Well, yeah. I mean, but that's coming GA side and to help to give something for them to do while they're waiting for the phone to ring or somebody to come in. I mean, it's all kind of merged together. But we put the postage back in to the county budget to fund that newsletter, and then that's where that $1,000 will also help with that if we go over amounts and postage and such like that. So, I mean, it gives us a little bit of that wiggle room and to not overspend in the budget for next year, because we, like I said, we don't have any fallback money if I end up spending line items that, that I used to use allocation for. We won't have that in there. We don't have that cushion.
You also put mileage and back in also.
I put everything back in the way it was originally proposed to the commission members, original salary, original everything. The only thing that changed from the first draw that I sent to the commissioners was $1,000 outreach line item that got added. Otherwise, this is exactly what I submitted to the commissioners the first time around before they changed it. So it looks exactly the same except for $1,000.
And the additional 5 hours.
And the additional, well, but the additional 5 is coming out of allocation, so,
Right.
which is going
But
to.
we now put the allocation into the budget, so.
Well, but the question for that is the fact that the salary, FICA and IPERS are coming out of the allocation. And what that will do is the FICA and IPERS comes out of Fund 2, not Fund 1. So I'm not sure how you want to work that or how that's going to be best for Carrie to be able to budget. Because if, you know, what they did in the past was they pulled that money from allocation from a different funding source. They pulled it from that line item. But that will change her bottom line on FICA and IPERS in Fund 2. And those years that we did it, we ended up being short, but it wasn't as much. But this is going to be a definite shortage, so I don't know how to have her, because she's actually going to need to kind of budget for that. But the money's coming in. I don't know how to. Does
I'll have to talk to Carrie about that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, the salary is not, it comes out
Yeah,
of Fund
she's
1, but the FICA and IPERS comes out of Fund 2, so that will have an impact on the Fund 2 budget. I mean, even though they're going to draw that money, I don't know if they can set it up through their system to draw Fund 2 out of that, how to split it. I don't know. I just don't want her to get surprised and then that screws up your numbers that you guys approve.
Yeah. She's coming in.
Well, I think so. Forget salary.
And then the accrual for vacation and sick pay will also have to get changed July 1st.
We just have a question about the FICA and the IPERS.
Right.
Fund 1 or Fund 2 and.
The commission, starting July 1st, is going to use allocation money to fund 5 extra hours, but that includes FICA and IPER yet, so the allocation money is going to pay for that. But I know before you've done it where you pull from that line item those monies, you know, for when we did it on a temporary basis in years past. But then it kind of screwed up your FICA and IPERS because that comes out of Fund 2. So that's what I was telling them, that I didn't want the fund to be messed up because you would come up quite short. I don't know how you want it done, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how you want us to put that money in, or do you want us to give you a total what the FICA and IPERS would be for those 5, so you would budget for that?
I can do that, but,
Yeah, I didn't want you to be surprised at that, so that's why I wanted to bring it to their attention.
let me work on that.
Because that will affect your numbers. I mean, even though it's coming
So
from.
that 10,000 shouldn't all be in that line item, we need to put some down below then?
Probably, if
Okay.
that's where we've got to take FICA and.
So we need to reduce that 10,000 on the 638 object.
Down to what it would be without my salary in IPERS and FICA. So basically subtract that amount, those 5 extra hours, what that impact would be, and then that would be actually what goes in 638, the rest you could distribute.
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Except
FICA
the
and
only
IPERS
thing
would
we're
only
trying to
be on the.
figure out is FICA and IPERS.
Right.
Right.
The $5,000, the FICA and IPERS would only be on the $5,000 that come out of that fund, right?
It's actually like
The
6,000
additional.
something with total salary, FICA and IPERS. I don't remember the exact breakdown.
The whole amount won't come out of that.
Well, the whole amount, because the salary actually is out of Fund 1, but the FICA and IPERS are out of Fund 2. But she could actually make it look already, take that 638 and kind of move it, already distribute it that way. But because we're still maintaining our level of spending.
So the numbers you gave me aren't correct then?
Well, they are, but they're exactly what they want. But I was bringing up the flip side of the FICA and IPERS and the salary, how that affects Fund 2.
So all we need to do then is reduce, I'll calculate out the 5 hours, reduce the line item of 10 grand by that 5 hours for FICA and IPERS that comes out of Fund 2. So you won't have $10,000 shown in 638, because that will justify then
the extra that needs to go in Fund 2 for the IFRS and FICA. Okay?
That's,
Just
I
do
just,
that.
I did what they wanted me to do, but then I
Along
thought
with that
about
will be the salary then, so that 10 grand is gonna be reduced down.
Right.
So, because we've already put that up there in the salary line
Right.
item, so 10 grand's not gonna be a full 10 grand because we're allocating it to other lines.
Right.
Right.
Exactly, which is actually easier to track for spending purposes for me too. I mean, to
So,
show that
okay.
automatically instead of having it there and then each pay period it kind of dwindles, you know, with you pulling
So
from it.
all that figures are accurate except for that line item of 10,000. I'll
Yeah.
put in effect of the extra 5 hours for salaries, FICA, IFR, and reduce it down then.
Yes, if that, I didn't know how you wanted it done.
Okay, sounds good.
I didn't know
I
how
can
you
do
wanted
that.
it done. I just knew it was gonna affect you in the long run, so
Yeah.
I thought heads up would have been nice.
Because we are ready, well, what caused us problems before, Patty, is when you changed midstream and we didn't have the right amount budgeted.
Right,
But
which-
now we do already for the whole salary of the 35 hours, so we're fine. So I'm just gonna reduce your 10,000 down to show that's where the revenue's going in.
Right, we just wanna make sure that that's covered.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
As long as that's what you guys want, if you're in agreement with what the commission did, and that's why I didn't change the numbers to reflect that, because it hasn't been approved, so until it's approved, I don't wanna
Carrie,
do
put
that.
that in the budget accordingly then, so.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's done with VA. And then the GA, that one changed because we ended up putting the per diem person in there, because when it came down, in all honesty, it's the general public that we're trying to serve while I'm out. It's not so much the VA, have someone to cover VA. It is the general public. So the per diem person, it was
Really
just-
should be in GA
really
rather
should be
than
in
VA.
GA than VA. And, you know, yes, there will be some overflow, carryover from one spot to the other, no different than what I do when I'm in there, that, you know, I generally do VA unless general public something comes up. So, that has changes, so there's a new line item in there to include the salary of, the per diem person, and the FICA and IPERS was changed to reflect their time.
Are you scheduling any certain hours for that
It's
person, or are
actually-
you going to use it to your discretion?
Well, what I kind of planned on was when I'm at schools for spring and fall, which is only 2.5 days, that they would potentially work 10 hours during that week to cover. When I'm gone a week, basically 10 to 15 hours, and then 5 hours maybe every other week, depending on whatever. So overall.
Are you saving that person for your vacation and sick leave
Yes,
too?
and I have vacation, and that's, I have 20 hours that'll be kind of what I call free float, which would be for if, you know, I was ill or something like that for off an extended amount of time that they could cover, you know, 10 hours or whatever each week, you know, if I was gone for a couple of weeks, something like that. But it's that 5 hours of, you know, every other week. I mean, that can be played with one way or the other, but overall it would be about 205 hours total that they would be in the office. And it was at the 1418, which is the start step for a direct care worker. I used what they would be making there, because that's the person out of that office, the part-time employee out of that office that I would be accessing. We wanted to see if we could do some of that this fiscal year with some of the money, but they're understaffed, so we're unable to. But starting July 1st, we should be good to go on that, according from Jane and Andrea when I talked to them.
Does any of the
And
board
that-
have any issues with that?
That person will be able to do some of the VA work for you then too?
They'll be able to do the county VA stuff. They'll be able to do the newsletter stuff, which was another thing we wanted them to do. The federal stuff, it's just, I understand what you're trying to say, but to have somebody that isn't going to be kept up to date, to put them in that position is not a smart thing to do, not only for the veteran, but not for the county, because if they're not trained and they're not knowledgeable in what they're doing and they're giving out false information, not only can that person be sued, but you as a county can be sued because they're not doing their job. You know, there's financial ramifications not only to the veteran, you know, that can happen. And with them only working such a short, you know, 5 hours every other week or just to cover when I'm on vacation or gone, the best use thing would be them to do county business, because another county like Johnson County or Scott County, when they cover, cannot do county assistance. They can answer all the federal questions. There's no barriers when it comes to federal. They can do all the federal stuff, can access their federal claim stuff with their permission, if they're sitting in their office, you know, they can access all that stuff and help them with that. But when it comes down to it, it's the county issues that we have. If someone needs buried, and I'm not here to answer and to qualify them for that. If somebody needs rental assistance for the general public, I mean, it doesn't really ever happen for county VA, but for general public, there's rental, there's utility, there, you know.
So you're planning on using them 5 hours every other week?
Every other
then
week.
5 hours that that person's in the office, and you're gonna go out to
Yes. My
nursing
intention
homes
is
or
to go out to
something like
nursing
that?
homes and do that kind of stuff. So, because we only have, you know, so many nursing homes here, you know, once a month, or, you know, to go out and just to stop in and see if any of the veterans want to meet with me, you know, and just kind of follow up with them.
This person isn't gonna do just general assistance, it's going to also do VA work.
Yeah, VA county
So,
work.
but all the budget is in the.
Yeah, but they're really, it's just what they're gonna do is probably the newsletter, and if somebody needs county assistance, but
They
it's
can't
not.
fill out the forms.
I
But-
realize that,
yeah.
but what I'm saying is that they're relieving you so you can go do some VA
Right,
work.
right. But
and
the main
it's all in
concern-
it's all in the relief budget instead of in the VA budget.
But the reason it's in there is because it's the general public that needs to be served when I'm gone. It's not a veteran that needs that emergency care when I'm gone. Generally, it's not them coming in, it's the general public that's needs aren't being met.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, and I'm just
that.
trying to kind of clarify a little bit for you, but it's the general public that really is not being served, because a veteran can generally, they need help with their federal assistance, can go to a different office and get that assistance, where a county person needing county money can't do that. So that's why it was kind of figured to do it out of the VA, or out of the GA budget rather than the VA budget.
Well, we're also maximizing the VA budget, and those $10,000 for true outreach to veterans too, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, VA board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did send a memo to you guys about the District 1 meeting. I haven't heard anything from any of you of wanting to attend. It's on a Friday in March. It's good for you guys to come to that. It's important for you guys to come to get informed. Maybe then you'd have a little bit.
What is it and where?
It is in Iowa City. It is, oh gosh, March 27th.
But you'll let us know.
Yeah, I did send an email. Look at Beth looking at me. I did send an email letting you guys know of the tentative date, and that I didn't have an agenda yet, because the agenda hasn't come, and that we would be having meals, so I was going to need a head count on that if any of you were interested.
I'll be heading south, I won't be available that time.
I don't remember seeing.
So you're thinking about March 23rd?
I think it's the 27th.
Maybe I should check the junk.
Okay.
Can you?
So you'll fire
you could
something
send
else
it
out,
around.
won't you?
Would you
Yeah.
send it again?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I'll send it again.
All right.
But, I mean, it is good for you guys to see some of the stuff that the commissioners get educated on. Some of the presenters come and talk about what's hitting. We usually have several people from the VA hospital. There's an attorney that specializes in appeals and such that's going to be there. I mean, it's a good overview of the office and the demands, and then some of the commissioners start talking about what's going on in their counties, so you get more of an idea of what other counties are doing within our district. So
This will be all day?
yeah,
Okay, all day, and then you don't know exactly where it's at?
it is in Iowa City at the Human Services Building. It's
Okay.
it's where DHS and like public health, I think.
That's
And
where we went for the recordings, when we went to check out.
Okay.
it's in that long building,
Yeah.
and it's upstairs, and there's a meeting room upstairs. Johnson County is the District 1 president, so he's holding it there. It's a good spot for local hospital to come. So
It'll be interesting.
But I'll resend that to you, Beth.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Okay, what we need to do is we need to finalize some of the budget. Did Karen want to come in for that?
I don't know, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
If she wants to, I don't know.
She wants to come in for finalization, so if they have questions, they can, she can answer them.
You might have to fly home late for this meeting.
I'm driving. My
Yeah,
car
but
don't
special
fly.
flight home.
You gonna pay for it?
No.
What was the cost of the other system?
Which one?
Solar system. Do you remember?
I don't.
You mean on warrants?
Is Warren coming in to talk about any of this, or no? Yeah.
He's been getting other bids, that's why.
Well, this one's from Iowa Wind and Solar.
He was waiting on that other bid.
Mm-hmm.
This
He
one's
said the last time.
500,000.
Yeah, he said.
How much?
Oh, he did send it.
500,000.
Okay.
Yeah, she's looking.
20-year agreement. Theirs is a 20-year agreement, and I think the other one had a shorter term on it.
I think we're ready to finalize the final bid, final budget.
Okay.
So, I guess the new ones that have been sent in has been the veterans and the
County
relief.
attorney.
So if,
The
does anybody
county
have a problem
attorneys,
with
was
what
there
was
any
submitted?
changes with that, other than he's leaving his budget as is, but he's paying it out at 85% of his salary, is that correct?
Right, and the sheriff's doing the same. The other 3 elected officials are going off the comp study.
Except for,
What?
who's not going off the comp study? Just the county attorney
And the sheriff.
and the sheriff.
Yes.
And the budgets we have in front of us, like for the treasurer,
That's a comp study.
That's a comp study.
Yep, I double checked his figures.
County attorney and sheriff is percentages.
Mhm.
So what's the board's wish? You wanna go with what's being presented, or you wanna, the option you have is cutting the bottom line.
Should we tackle the veterans one first?
Okay, veterans and relief, you wanna do anything on that?
Well,
What
per
they've
your
done-
instruction, that 10,000 is not gonna be the full 10,000. That's gonna be less whatever that 5 hours is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's already inputted in her salary line on
Right.
FICA and IFRS. So whatever that calculates up is what that will be on that 638 line item. Okay, so it won't be the full 10.
And what they done was they put that per diem person, that part-time person over to relief,
Yes.
so.
And I have,
Yeah,
that's
the
correct,
figures.
right? Okay. Okay, so there's only one item I need to change there.
Okay, any other questions, comments on the VA and the relief?
Brad and I were at that meeting. Does anybody have any questions about that, or?
I think I called all 5 of the veterans, because you couldn't have more than 2 people there
Mhm.
for open meetings, and they all seemed satisfied. I think it's a good compromise. I think
Yeah.
you guys did good work all around.
So, if we don't have anything on that, then we'll proceed on to the next one.
Well, do we have to?
Well, we'll take a motion for the whole
Approve it?
thing, because
Or-
it'll be
or
a
just for
public
the whole
hearing.
thing?
so-
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
public hearing is when you'll.
Yep, okay, got it.
So the treasurer's office. Treasurer, county attorney, and the sheriff. Them are the only 3 we really have to make a decision on, right?
Treasurer went off the comp study.
Yeah, but
Unless
those
there's
are the
something
only
else
3
you
left
don't
to
like.
make a decision on. Everything else has been approved. I mean, basically, hasn't it?
Yeah, everything has been.
Unless you change it and go to all salaries, wages.
On the recorder's office, did she budget in that extra person as a deputy, or did she leave him as a clerk?
I don't have that one in front of me.
Good point.
Because we kinda kicked that can down the
Good
road,
point,
and
yeah.
all of a sudden I got to thinking, I don't know
think
how we
she
have
did.
that in there. If she left it, or if she?
It's as a clerk position, and then the deputy, but it's on a comp study. Did I give, he's looking it up.
Clerk's wage, she put in at 30,280. And the clerk at the recorder's office be at 1651. So it's 1651 times, what do you want, 37 and a half up there, Carrie?
No, they're just 35, the recorder's
35.
office, yeah.
What did they say, 16? Take that times 35 then. she's got the clerk in at the comp studies, 1651.
For a clerk.
Yep, for a
Yeah.
clerk.
That's what I
Right,
thought.
got it.
That was okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And her deputy is actually not a percentage, it's off the comp study. So yeah, hers is correct. Or as the board wished.
Well, I just wasn't sure which,
Yeah.
where she had put it
Nope.
in there.
So I'm still good. So
She left the third person in as a clerk and not a deputy PA.
So you got 3 of them left.
So the treasurer did go back then, because originally it was percentage. And so he has gone back to the comp study.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't realize that, okay.
Yeah, the latest one you have is off the comp study.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's agreed.
He did as the board wished.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so you got the county attorney and the sheriff that did not go off the comp study. They went by the. What did the sheriff do to compensate for his increase, Gary, you know?
He has not done nothing. We just made the changes.
His bottom line was increased then, right?
Mhm.
Over what he had received.
Well, and that's the biggest thing of it. Now, our original budgets was off the 5%. Then the board approved a 4%. So we made those changes. And then he increased his percentage for his deputies back instead of off the comp study. So he says, what do I need to do next? And I said, that's up to the board. I said, I'm just making the changes as you wish. I'll present it. So.
Is that like $22,000?
Mm-hmm.
$22,400 more for the percentages over the comp study?
At the 5% when we originally had it, yeah, it was right around 24,000.
So
And that's what I told them. I said, just be aware, you know, this is what you're looking at.
So it'd be a little bit less when it had 4%, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But you're not.
Not much, but yeah.
1% of the 346,000. $300. So you're talking basically $22,000 more than what the comp study shows.
Mm-hmm.
And his bottom line right now is $1,119,133.
Which would have ramifications on the levy that we set for rural services.
Mm-hmm.
To try to get that at the
Because
ending
that's right.
balance that we.
Right. It's very minimal though.
Yeah.
Because you're only really looking at the 1%.
Yeah, and then not all of his deputies are in rural services either.
No, 3.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
But
You have 6.
5.
It started out as 3, then it moved to 6.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's only 6 of the deputies would come out of rural services. So you're talking of 10,000 maybe?
I think it was, when I was crunching out, I think it was around 3,000-4,000 there.
So Carrie, he
More,
left
yeah.
all of his budget the same when he made those increases?
The sheriff?
Yeah.
Yes. He
Nothing-
didn't cut anything else.
Okay.
So.
And if we cut the budget by that much, his alternatives are to either go with the budget minus what was cut, or find the savings within his budget after we pass it, if we pass it, for $24,000 less.
Say that again.
In other words, he can either go with $24,000 less or find the $24,000 in his reduced budget.
Right. He's either going to go back to the comp study or he'll find the 24. Yeah. He told me he could find it.
22.4.
Yeah.
Which would be like a vehicle or something.
He's got $30,000 budgeted for a vehicle, and $60,000 in rural services. So, he could take out one car, and there's nothing to do about it.
But the problem is, like I told him, to be very precise in this, he's dealing with 3 different funds. Okay, so.
Because he's got rural, he's got
yeah,
general.
because he was going to take out, I believe it was Kevin's car, which would be in rural services. I said, by all rights, you can't do that. I said, you can't take one lump sum out of one fund. It'd be just like taking it all out of general. That's not where all the money's coming from. You have a very complex, budget. We just don't deal with one fund. Now, Your general sup will be very difficult because it's just vacant neighbors. So I think the general, he's going to have to cut his share of the general sup from the general. But he does have the extra expense of the car. Remember, the board had him put all his car expense, everything in the rural services for those 6 deputies. So that's where he would have to figure out whether he's got the extra in there.
I guess my concern is when we talked to the county attorney's budget stayed the same, correct? The bottom line did not change when he came in at 85% on the assistant county attorney, when he said he was going to hold the line on that just now.
He's never gave me any other changes on his.
If he never gave you any other changes in his bottom line,
he's always kept it 85%.
Okay.
So he took it from somewhere then. Don't know where, but he's going to have to let me know so I can decrease that line item. So. Because he never gave me a revision of the comp study.
Well, I think if we're going to take that stand with one department, I think we should do that with the other departments.
So Warren will have to come back and give you.
He'll have to find his
right.
22,000 somewhere to carve out of it. Yeah. And you're saying he already thinks he knows where he can cut?
Yeah, because he says, what do you think? I said, well, in the code, the board has jurisdiction over us for the bottom line. So just be ready for that. I said, so you better be thinking whether you can afford to do that or not. I said, I don't know what the board's going to do, but I'm just telling you what can happen. So.
The county attorney's budget, it went from 344,982, or excuse me, from 346,636 down to 344,982, but that was at 4%.
Right.
Cut that
That's
1%,
the only
so
change.
that 1%.
Yeah.
But I didn't see where he
but
took
he didn't
out
increase
anything.
it anywhere else.
No, we didn't increase it anyplace else.
Yeah. So we'd have to calculate what his should be, and then he would have to make up the difference, which would, off the cuff, probably right around $3,000.
I think to stay within the compensation study, he's going to have to find something in his budget. I'll bring that back to you. That's my opinion.
Well, he won't be staying within the study because he's going
well,
ahead with the 85%.
Well, yeah, I understand.
Which, we had discussed that might have to change the next go around anyway, but this way he's still absorbing those costs in his budget.
We have stayed within the compensation study. I agree.
You know what my opinion is? I think that deputy should have stayed in for another year in all the offices. So. Because I think it was very confusing to even the elected officials on the salaries of the comp study and the percentage of the deputies. So that's my feeling. So what's the board's wish? If you're going to go with the comp study, you're going to have to cut the sheriff's budget and the county attorney's budget. The treasurer's budget is...
No, I thought you said the county attorney already took that into consideration.
Nope.
I've never received...
No, he said he would absorb it, so that meant that...
His first budget he submitted was for the 5%. The next one was a 4%. Still off the percentage of his. So what I need to do now with it being the 4%, I'll take what that budget dollar amount is, then I'll go back, calculate what the county attorney, the assistant county attorney should be on the comp scale and find the difference, if that's what the board wishes to do, and let him know that's how much he needs to cut in his budget somewhere.
But aren't those two budgets a little bit apples and oranges because the code creates the exception?
Apples and oranges to what?
Because he just came in and gave us code sections where the Code of Iowa actually creates the exception.
Does Warren have that same for deputies?
What hours do you figure for the county attorney? assistant county attorney.
Because I asked him why he believes the code created that exception. I assume with that question that.
Is there anything for the sheriff's department? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I assume the way he answered it, the answer to that's no, but I think we better get clarification. The whole premise of my question was that it's an exception.
Did you see this, Gary?
No, I did not.
You know how many hours the county attorney and the figured on, assistant county attorney?
There's 37 and a half.
So if I take 3492 times 37 and a half and then times 52, right?
But is that 34, is that at the 85%?
Well, no, it says, I guess it is. It says
Okay.
85%.
Okay, so I believe what his
County
hourly
attorneys-
rate should be 33.44.
33.24.
Okay, what's this?
65,208, and he's at 67,760, so it's 78.
Couple grand.
What'd you say it was?
65,208 is what I come up with.
Okay, so what's he saying here?
He's saying that
$2,570 is what you'd have to cut out of his budget.
Right.
He's saying that because it says shall, he is compelled to do 85%.
Well, if you look in the code, the auditor, treasurer, and recorder is the same way. We have shall.
So that isn't an exception.
And it also says up to.
Yes, but I'm
Within the budget set for the county attorney's office by the board.
okay. The way my question was answered, it was implied that that is an exception. If it isn't, then that changes. Then we are comparing apples and apples.
Yeah. Each one of us elected officials sets the salaries of our deputies.
Is there a shall? Because that's what he emphasized.
I can pull it up. I'm 98% sure it is.
Can we
But
make-
it also says the board has the final say-so on
Right.
our bottom line.
Can we make it 100 just to make sure?
Yeah, let me
Since-
go
since
grab my
the-
code.
Jeff, the way he presented it this morning with the shall, I interpreted that you didn't have any choice, that you had to do it because it said shall. Is that the way you understood?
Our option is the bottom line. So
Yeah,
that's
that's how I
how we
understood
correct it.
My question is that true with the other elected offices? Is there a shall there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the shall doesn't make any difference because you guys
Got the bottom line.
You got the bottom line.
Well, we'll see what she comes back with the others.
They presented what they needed. And they can set salaries, what's to cut.
Jeff?
How many more of these you have over there?
A bunch.
Glad I lost the election.
Why is that?
I don't have to make this decision.
It's not a fun one, I'll tell you.
No. Oh, because there's logic on both sides.
Yeah.
One question for you.
Yeah, no.
If you'd have followed the comp study, I know they're asking for the deputies to have these 85%, salary or whatever. If you'd have followed the comp study, did they recommend 81% or did they recommend just a?
They had an hourly, and I don't know what it'd figure out to.
Would it have wound up being some pay cuts for some people then in those deputy positions?
Not as other pay this right now. It
Okay.
might decrease their percentage of what they got. You know, like the assistant county attorney, he might be down to 75% instead of 85%. You know, but nobody took a pay cut in that comp study. There were some people that did not get any raise, but nobody took a pay cut.
And if they were way out of whack, they won't get a raise for a while.
Right, and that's what Jeff's worried about with the county attorney. It would be like fifth, possibly. I think it was over 10 years before the county attorney would get something beyond a cost of living increase. And he's worried about retention. And should be.
Did I explain it?
I think so.
And I got this sheet from Warren here. It wasn't $22,400. It was $24,333 more. Putting his deputies on the percentage instead of 22. So.
Okay, the annual base salary of the first and second deputy officer of the Office of Auditor, Treasurer, and Recorder, the deputy in charge of motor vehicle registration and title division, and the deputy in charge of driver's license shall each be in an amount not to exceed 85% of the annual
language.
salary. It is the same.
It's also the justification why the treasurer can have more than one deputy because of the divisions too in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each deputy sheriff shall receive an annual base salary as follows. First or second shall not exceed 85%.
Okay, same language.
Yeah.
First or second.
Mm-hmm. Which are fine, because only Kevin gets 85.
Right.
The rest are 84.
1% less.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The way I read that though, it says shall not exceed, but it doesn't say shall receive a minimum.
That's
They're,
why we
they're
can,
just saying, yeah,
that's why we
the
can
bottom
cut
line.
the bottom line. Allows us to cut the bottom line.
So what's the board's wish? If you want to go with the comp study, you're going to have to cut about $24,000 out of Warren's budget, and you're going to have to cut $2,570 out of the county attorney's budget. And everybody will be following the comp study.
Well, basically, I mean, when the county attorney was talking about it, he said he would be, what did he say? He wouldn't be buying books this year or something or other, that he would take it out of that. So he was talking about taking his difference already out of his budget.
He has a plan. I mean, he said.
Yeah, he said he had a plan,
He's
whether we
using
went
that
with
money.
it or not, and he would be cutting it from his own bottom line. But you're saying that he put it in already at the right, about the corrected 85%.
Yeah, he's got it at 85%. So just like Wayne said, the $2,570.
That's the difference.
Is the difference that you could say you want his budget cut. You can't say what line item, just the bottom line needs to be cut.
And then he would implement his plan.
Yeah, he would give the changes to me, and yeah, his bottom line would be the $2,570 less than what he presented to you.
I guess my concern is some budgets are very tight. Some people have done a due diligence and they have their budgets pretty crunched down to where there isn't a whole lot of wiggle room. And then some people don't seem to have a problem with just whacking, you know, a considerable amount out of their budgets. And I guess I'm wondering how much of it is real and fluff. So, and it was on multiple budgets that I saw that. It wasn't, I'm not just picking on one department. I'm just saying that that was the general response was, go ahead and do what you're gonna do, we'll fund it.
Well, if we follow the comp study, the thing that Jeff mentioned, when I had a conversation, the thing that bothered him the most is retention of his assistant county attorney, because they wouldn't get he wouldn't get a raise for, I don't want to say the figure because I can't remember, but it was over 10 years. That's not right? I think he told me. In fact, I'm thinking it was a lot more than that.
Okay, but remember, each year it will go up with the cost of living and
With
performance
the
every
exception of cost of living.
Okay, and the performance of 2.
But he wouldn't be getting the step increases.
Right. So in terms of retention of that position, that has to be something, one of the things, in my opinion, only my opinion, that we deal with when we look at some of the fundamentals of this comp study next year. So I'm thinking that the long-term problem that he sees, well, hopefully we can do something about that. I mean, that's what we promised to look at that. I've heard consensus around the table that we're going to look at that, the sheriff, the county attorney, veterans, and there was one more.
Well, actually, you need to look at everybody then. You don't single people out. If you're going to do a true comparison, it's going to be for everybody.
Yeah. But look at the fundamental comparisons that Paul Groof made of what he was comparing to.
Right.
And if we agree to do that as a board and get involved in that, then any problems that are created will potentially not be long-term if those can be addressed.
Right. But you still got to realize too, even doing this, it may not change things. So you can't make promises that people are going to be making more money next year. If it comes in that they're comparables and they're good, even doing again, it is what it is.
Well, and the only other thing that could change is we could do like what Wayne said and pull the elected official and the deputies out. But that would be across the board.
Yeah, we'd have to do that across the board. I agree.
Right.
That would not be fair to everybody else.
No.
Those are our choices.
Well, if you would pull them out, then Carrie have her deputies in at a percentage, Gary go to percentage, and Melissa. There'd be 3 officers that go to percentage the same.
But then
you're not talking about that much money, because we got 2 deputies. Gary's got 3, and Melissa's got 1. So you're talking of 6 people. Where you look at the deputy sheriff, you're looking at 11, and the county attorney 12. So you're comparing 12 people to 6 people, for the deputies' wages.
Maybe one of the things that we can do next year is what Dawn suggested. That would be us intervening in the compensation study directly, and that is looking at deputies as.
Oh,
what did you say? Right?
What we basically said that is the deputy technically the next one that's underneath that elected official? Who steps in when that person, if something happens to that person? Is that the true deputy? Are we using deputy as in any patrol officer in a county is a deputy?
Chief deputy, I believe, is what the board would look at and say,
can
you fill in until there's a special election or we can appoint someone.
And I guess that's what we were looking at is that one person in each department that moves into that spot rather than 3 or 4,
Which would be, I think, I was on the compensation study, so correct me if I'm wrong, you 2 that were, but that would be a legitimate time when the board can come in with a policy decision on how we define that as deputy. Correct? So you're picking the deputy that is the true deputy that steps in for the person
and have them be tied to the elected official, only one person.
Right. I mean, that's a decision that would be a directive that would be legitimate for the board to make on that compensation study, if the board wants to do that.
And you could even do that this year. You could make that decision now, couldn't you, Carrie? Because we made the decision to put everybody in the comp study. We could make the decision now and say, chief deputy only would go percentage.
But then but you got the sheriff's office then. I guess county attorney, you only have one person tied.
Melissa's only got 1.
But you'd have the sheriff's office still, him saying he'll cut his budget because you heard him in here, he wants his
Yeah.
deputies to have a raise. I believe that's what he said, so.
And before we do something like that, so we're not arbitrary, I'd like to look at the whole thing holistically and make the choice that way. I don't wanna make that
Which
in
is
5
kind of
minutes.
where we're back to what John said. Are you gonna follow through this year and go with what, and then try and find the way to fix it the next go around?
Or from the other side of the coin, are we gonna make sure that we don't do anything we don't intend to do, make the exception this year, and then
screw it up?
Yeah.
Yes, Bob.
I got a simple way, and don't anybody take this really personal, but to save $100,000, cut our supervisors from 5 to 3.
They can't do that, that will go in front of
Well, that
the
would be with
public.
all benefits and everything.
That has to go in
And
front of the public.
I know, I'm just joking, but I'm just.
Actually, that's probably an appropriate conversation to
Yeah.
have, that and also being elected in districts,
I
but
was
that's a
just
whole.
Kinda joking, but in all reality, it is something that could
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
Then they'd probably do like Lynn County does up there, they go to a full-time job and get
Go to a
$100,000
go to a 6-figure salary. It's a no-win situation.
They also run in districts, they do not
Yeah, they run
run
in
the
districts,
entire
too.
county.
I think that's a legitimate discussion to have at some point.
Okay, what's the board's wish? Gotta instruct Carrie to do one or the other. We don't need a motion, but Carrie needs some information so she can get the budget prepared for the public hearing.
I think for this year, they need to take it out of their bottom line. That's my opinion.
And the dollar amount being?
Well, what I come up with was $2,570 out of the county attorney and.
Which would be all out of the general fund, because again,
Right.
the IPERS, okay.
And then Warren's would be, well, his increase was 24,333, but that was before he had that was at the 5% though.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to refigure that at the 4% for him and his deputies in. So, it might be 24,000 even or something like that,
Yeah. Okay.
That's the figures I got, Gary. You might wanna.
If we do that, do any of you have a problem if we, I'd really like to make the motion, let you vote, but we're trying to come to consensus. We make a motion, if we do what Brad's suggesting, and then we make a motion that puts us on the record, as opposed to just saying we're gonna do it, that we are going to look at the fundamental comparisons. The Board of Supervisors is gonna look at the fundamental comparisons that were used in the comp study.
Well, we knew this wasn't gonna be perfect. We knew there was gonna be bugs in it, so I think that's good.
But I think we're sending a message that we're going to do it, because there's an anticipation that we're just saying that, get through the budget,
Right.
and then we won't talk about it again until next year when we get close to the budget again. But that we actually say that we're going to do it, and we're on the record saying that we're gonna do it.
And I would say to start that process as soon as possible.
Yep.
Because I hate.
It takes a while.
It will, yeah.
It takes a
Next
long
budget
while.
will be here before you know it. So.
I can support what Brad's suggesting. I think that's what John suggested too. As long as I just feel better if we were on the record voting that we were gonna look at those comparisons. And I don't even have a problem putting some kind of a timeline so that it's done immediately.
So you want Carrie to proceed then with them cuts? Is that the general consensus? 3 against 1?
I would say yeah.
Okay, Carrie, you got your orders there.
Okay.
So you do that and come back with the corrected copies, and we'll have a public hearing. So we need to set a public hearing date, so we'll have to put that on the agenda for next Tuesday then?
Actually, you can set it already.
can set it now.
Carrie,
Or do
when we get done with this, will you give us the bottom line on what that's gonna do to rule? I know we've made you run these numbers.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Would this allow us to push the levy down in rural a little bit?
Play with it a little bit. If possible, I'll bring it to your attention on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, so you can change your motion in that if you want to.
Might be 100? Gonna be 100?
Yeah, that 1% isn't gonna do much, I don't think, but
You
it's
want-
something better than nothing.
You wanna go with the bottom one, Carrie? Setting the public hearing for Tuesday, March 12th?
Actually.
The upper one, you had it Thursday, March 26th.
Well, the 12th was on a Thursday, so here's your option. I'm actually going on a vacation for once, so I'm gone the first week of March. So if you
Okay.
wanna have it without me, you can do it on March 3rd.
Guess what? You get to attend it.
Okay, so let's do it on the 10th, if that's all
10th?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock?
That sounds great.
Okay. Does somebody wanna make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, the motion been made by Smith. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Kaufman. Roll call. Smith.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Gal.
Aye.
Gilbert, aye. So,
Okay, so I'll go ahead and notify the 2 elected officials. I'll need their revisions, and then from there, I'll go ahead and compile, do some more number crunching, see what I can bring to you on Tuesday, so you can look at it.
And then you know about veterans, you know what your
I just
clear
need to
veterans
reduce
are.
that $10,000 line
Yeah.
item because we've already compensated in the salary
And
FICA
the GA,
members.
is there, that you know?
Yeah, she's already got it in the GA.
That's
She already
done.
took care of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you very much.
okay, we got one other thing on the top part of the agenda is action on the request by the recorder for an additional deputy appointment. And from what I've seen on the email is that that person does not have to be named a deputy. From what I got from Paul Group was that she could take her clerk and have him sign a confidentiality paper and she could do most of the stuff like that, so. What's the board's wish?
Well, I think we just approved her budget without it.
Okay,
I'd say without.
okay.
I think, I think we did it de facto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll notify her then that did not approve her clerk for that.
Deputy.
Deputy.
Excuse me.
The clerk stays.
Clerk's there.
On the minutes, I'll just put
Yep.
No motion was made.
No motion made, so you take that off the top of the agenda then.
Then I'd like to, back to the budget, I'd like to make a motion then that within the next 2 months, the Board of Supervisors initiate a process to look at the basic fundamental comparisons of the compensation study and do a review of that study.
Are you gonna also look at specifically the deputy situation along with the elected officials? Because that's kind of a different issue. I mean, it's all part of the compensation study, but it is different than the general compensation study.
I can do that. I'm trying to think, is there others that I should throw in the motion that would
The rest of it was
That's
just to
everything.
be reevaluated with comps.
Okay, I will add to that motion, as well as the fundamental comparisons, also compensation of deputies.
Okay, would you read that motion back, Jeff?
Good luck, Beth.
Will you tell me if I have this right?
Okay.
Within the next 2 months, the Board of Supervisors initiates the process to look at basic fundamental comparisons in the comp study
Yep.
and the compensation of deputies.
Of deputies, yeah.
Okay, the
I'd say
motion-
to elected officials based on.
Deputies to elected officials.
Deputies to elected officials.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Smith. Any discussion? Roll call. Kaufman.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Gal.
Aye.
And Gilbert, aye, so it passed. Okay, anything else coming from the meeting?
I just had a quick report. I had a special meeting the other night with the Fair Board, and you saw the minutes go around. But one of the things I wanted to mention, and you did read the minutes, or their minutes, is, and I haven't found this out yet, but June 12th, 13th, and 14th, they're trying to host the Iowa High School Rodeo. And if I think they were supposed to know yesterday, and I haven't heard, but if they get that in here, that's gonna be huge. And they do not have a race promoter this year. So they're scheduling some rodeos. One's gonna be May 22nd and 23rd. They are coming up with a lot of ideas on how to compensate for that revenue they're gonna lose from racing. And they're working really hard with that. They are gonna have some practice runs for people that have cars, And I think Kathy and Al Deloy did that last year, and I believe it was last year, the year before maybe, but they're going to do it again this year. And if somebody wants to come in and do some practice runs on the track, Al Deloy will get them ready, and Kathy will be in charge of that. $500 for 5 cars, or if the person says, look, I only have 1 car, it's still going to be $500. And then for every car after 5 cars they want to add, it's going to be $100 per car. 1 car on the track at a time, so no ambulance or anybody is needed. But they're moving forward with things. They're looking into rain insurance and working really hard to try to come up with that revenue for losing that revenue for the races. And then we have a SEDCO meeting tonight.
Yep.
I'm going to try to make it. I have another fair board meeting tomorrow night if anybody'd like to go.
I'll be out of town.
And I've got something, safety meeting Thursday, that's at 1 o'clock.
Safety meeting.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Reports? Dawn?
No, not this week.
Jeff?
I mean, we went to the VA.
Community Action Davenport next week.
And I was down at the mental health meeting yesterday with Julie, and I got Cedar tonight, and then Thursday, Dawn and I are going out to Des Moines to the supervisors meeting, statewide supervisors meeting.
What day is that?
Thursday.
I'm going out
In Yankee.
What time does that start? 9 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
7 to 8 is.
Registration.
You want to go, Brad?
I've got a safety meeting.
10 o'clock. Well, 10 o'clock is when you're supposed to meet.
Yeah, we're going to meet at West Branch at 6 o'clock and go drive out.
Supposed to talk about mental health and the gas. Fuel
If I'm not there, don't wait on me.
Yeah. And then if anybody wants to go to the 7th Judicial with me Friday, you're welcome. So, okay, anything else?
I haven't gotten the mail, but I don't know if there'll be anything. On Tuesday, the engineer's coming in at 9 for a final payment voucher on a shoulder paving project on F-28 near Jefferson Avenue. You'll have claims to approve. Those claims that went around for the drainage district people, do you want to hold on to those until you go into session to approve them, or these two for Lori and Betty on that?
Oh, Lori and Betty? Yeah. We'll probably go to drainage district when John gets back or something.
That's all I have.
Okay, is there anything else? If there's nothing else, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion been made by Smith. Is there a second on motion?
Second.
Second by Gal. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I do need you to sign that. Carrie said you need to sign it.
Brad?
Yes, sir.
Does this no sponsorship for racing? Does that mean there won't be any races or something?
No races. No races. They're going to just have practice runs. Anybody that likes,
I'll bring a new
who's the guy up at Ty? He may do some
Does Bev furnish those, or do I need
practice with the track. So they're in charge for that, and then Deloitte are going to give a portion of that back to
Okay.
the kind of promoter.
Didn't know if the county's front clean.
Rodney wasn't going to do it.
Just checking.
And then they got a little
Remember
late.
budgeting that.
There was some talk about, who's the other guy up there? Is it no races. And hopefully with the rodeos, it'll bring in that revenue that